Hey guys, it's your old pal Tony Giles TG here, back with episode 3 of The Record Room. And before we go any further, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to all of our patrons out there. Your support is tremendously overwhelming to me. Anytime anyone supports what I'm doing financially, I'm very humbled, let me just say that. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, but you'd like to get involved in being a Record Room patron, well, all you need to do is click the link in our bio and that will take you to our Patreon page. And for $1 per month, you get to see all of the episodes up front. You get to take part in viewer polls, ask me questions directly, and also receive a name credit at the end of each episode. All of that for $1. I don't think that's too bad, but let's get on with the show. Lots has happened since our last episode. I released the Isolation 2020 bonus clip and I've no idea how long this isolation is going to last for, so who knows, there may be another isolation bonus clip coming your way soon. But recently I took delivery of, I'm not going to go as far as to say this record is a grail, but it's definitely something I've wanted for a while, and the only thing that kind of prevented me from buying it was finding one in good enough condition in my home country, because even though I do buy records from overseas, shipping from overseas on a slightly expensive record, I'm always a little bit wary of. It could, it could just be me. I could miss out on a ton of things, but I have enough to keep me going. I am more than willing to wait for exactly what I want, which is something I would impart to every record collector out there. Learn to be patient, because if you can exercise patience, trust me, everything you're looking for will eventually find you. But this record I'm about to show you, I remember hearing this for the first time in the very early 90s, around 93, 94. I just really started listening to alternative music, Nirvana, Metallica, Sepultura, and a friend of mine he'd been listening a little bit longer than me, so he was kind of turning me on to things that he had been listening to. And he played me this album by a band from New York, and it just completely blew me away. I'd never heard the aggression and the heaviness mixed with such great clean vocals before, and it threw me for a loop, and I've been a big fan ever since. But trying to track down the band's early releases now, it can get a little bit pricey. And this record, it wasn't super expensive. I'm not going to say that. It was less than 100, but it was more than 50. So if you look at it that way, but the way I equate it, some new releases these days are 30, 40 pounds. And if I'm going to spend that much on a new release, why would I not spend a little bit more on an album I'm already in love with and I don't actually own on vinyl? See, that's how I justify it to myself. But the album in question is the debut from the mighty Life of Agony. This is River Runs Red, released on Roadrunner Records in 1993. And as I said, Keith Caputo's vocals on this album were just unlike anything I'd ever heard before. Genuinely, the power and the emotion he put into everything just totally blew me away. And every track on this time, Underground, River Runs Red, Through and Through, Words, Music, Method of Groove, it's almost like Life of Agony's greatest hits in one record. But I mean, they went on to release some fantastic records. Ugly followed this, that was followed by Soul Searching Sun, all of which are available on vinyl. And I believe Ugly and Soul Searching Sun have also received reissues, but this one, River Runs Red, it has received a reissue. It received a reissue a few years back on Brookvale Records, if I remember correctly. And they took it from a single LP and they split it to a 2 LP at 45 RPM. But the kicker is, it's actually cheaper to buy an original version than it is to buy the reissue. And I've bought this, obviously. I've played it. I cleaned it up as soon as it arrived. It looked good already, but I gave it a clean and I put it on the turntable and it was like 30 years had just disappeared, and I was back to the first time I'd heard the record, and it was absolutely phenomenal. The album is a pretty bare bones release. It does come with a printed inner sleeve though. You got some band shots there. You also get the lyrics on the other side of that. And this was back in the day when records did not come on fancy colors as standard. So this is just a beautiful slab of glorious black wax. Roadrunner Records, very, very simple. To me, it sounds good. I'm not sure the overall benefit of splitting it to a double LP set of 45 RPM. Yes, I understand that there are certain benefits to cutting at 45 RPM, and obviously the faster something spins, the clearer the sound is apparently supposed to be. That was the advantage of CD because it spun so fast. I don't know because I haven't heard the 45 RPM copy. If I ever manage to track one down and it's, you know, affordable, I may well pick it up just to give it a back-to-back with the original, but I can hand on my heart say the OG press from 1993 is well and truly worth your time. If you're a fan of the band and, you know, you fancy buying something a little bit special for yourself, River Runs Red would be an excellent purchase. Now up next, I can say without a shadow of a doubt is my absolute favourite listen at the moment. In fact, I'm listening to this album 2 or 3 times a day, and I say album because I'm primarily listening to it digitally, but I do own the vinyl as well. In fact, the vinyl only came out a couple of weeks ago. In fact, the whole album came out a couple of weeks ago. I always forget that sometimes vinyl releases come out at the same time as digital releases because that's not always the case these days. The album in question is Mixing Colours by Roger Eno and Brian Eno, and this is out now on Deutsche Grammophon. And essentially what this album is ambient sound colour palettes. I think that's how the album's described. All I can say is it's a troubling time out there in the world, and this album brings me no end of peace. I listen to this and just completely bliss out. It's very inoffensive, it's very calming, it's just great to have on. I listen to it at night when I'm falling asleep, and if I'm working, I do tend to work on my computer in the record room, so I will put this on to have on. It's just one of those fantastic listens. It's just something so soothing that I can't imagine what my life would be without this record going forward. In this one, I picked this up from a UK retailer, and I think it was around £28 for a double LP, which, I mean, I don't think that's too bad. I really don't. And it's a nice, there's a matte finish to the package. It's very simple. On the inside, there's a picture of Roger and Brian Eno, and on the back, there's this nice piece of artwork as well. And it's Deutsche Grammophon. Deutsche Grammophon really, it's Deutsche Grammophon. I'm an Essex boy, so I say gramophone. I always will. I know it's gramophone. I'm always going to say gramophone. Don't kill me in the comments. The album itself, though, does come with printed inner sleeves. You get the tracks on one side, and then these, they almost look like semaphore flags on the other. And it comes on black vinyl. They're 180 gram, I would say-ish. I think they're around 180. It's very thick, I will say that. It is quite thick, and it sounds amazing. It sounds absolutely fantastic. And like I say, I have been listening to this a fair amount digitally as well, because it's nice to have on, as we're all isolated, it's just nice to have on in the background if I'm working, or I'm playing with my daughter, or I'm cooking, or, you know, any kind of task I can do where I'm listening to music. It's just something pleasant to do. So if you don't want to jump in and pick up a copy of the vinyl, go online to your favorite DSP and have a listen digitally. Believe me, you will not regret it. Now I'm doing that thing again where I divert from talking about records, because I'm going to talk about records and a cassette. And in fact, when this cassette came out, I kind of screwed up the timing of when it was released, and it sold out very, very quickly. And I'm not going to lie, I was disappointed because it sounded exactly like the kind of thing I'd be into. Now, the company that released this, they also threw out a tweet at the same time saying, if we did a reissue of this, would anybody interested? And I immediately threw my hand up and said, yes, please, I'd love to have one of those. Fast forward a few weeks, maybe a month or so, and the composer, or the artist, actually got in touch with me because he's a listener of my former podcast, the DFC. And I don't know if he saw that I was looking for a copy, but he reached out to me and said, hey man, I may have a copy of this if you're interested. And I, of course, leapt on that. And the release in question is this bad boy. This is The Devil Rides Out by Dream Division. And what this is actually a soundtrack to the novel, not the film. This is an inspired soundtrack by Dennis Wheatley's novel. And I mean, obviously I'll throw a picture of this up at the end of this segment so you can see the cover, but it looks like an old school VHS or a paperback novel. It's so cool. And the cassette inside sits in this nice little inner sleeve there, which I'm such a big fan of. And the music itself, I was not prepared for how good this was. I mean, I thought it was going to be good because I'm a fan of Dream Division, but I had no idea it would be this good. I mean, we're talking like Wendy Carlos levels of excellence. There's Wendy Carlos, there's Tangerine Dream in here, there's some Vangelis. I mean, it's just, I'm amazed that more people are not talking about this. Maybe it's because it was released in such a small limited run, but I'm really hoping that Bibliotapes, I think that's it, yeah, Bibliotapes, I really hope they do another run because everybody should be listening to this. You know, even if they did a regular cassette release where it just comes in a thing, everyone, you need to jump on this because it's so cool. And what's great about getting in contact with Tom or Dream Division, he actually sent me a couple of records as well. And what's cool about these is they're lathe cut records. And for those of you that don't know, lathe cut records are essentially handmade. So each version, a cutter will put a blank disc, get a cutting needle, and in real time cut the record for you. And I'm a fan of lathe cuts. I have a few in my collection now, and I think they sound great. There's this whole thing of, well, you know, they don't sound as good as regular records and you can't play them as many times, and I have no issue so far with any of the lathe cuts I've got. But he sent me this, which is A la Villa di Halloween by Dream Division. And essentially this is a 7-inch EP of themes from Italian horror movies. You've got The Red Queen Kills 7 Times, Zombie 2, Cannibal Holocaust, and The Beyond on here. So all very well-known films. And I believe this is still available on the Dream Division Bandcamp. So go on and check that out. And for those of you that don't know what a lathe cut looks like, this is a prime example because it looks a little bit different from a regular record, but that's what it looks like. And what's cool about this one, or what threw me at first, is this has more information on it than a regular 7-inch. In fact, when I put this on my turntable and had the record clamp on, my cartridge was actually butting up against the clamp because there was more information. There were more grooves than the clamp would allow to be played. Obviously, I just removed the clamp and it played fine. But a lathe cut, I don't know if you'll be able to see exactly there. It's a little bit thicker than a regular record, and it's double-sided. You can play both sides. It's not like it's a one-sided affair. He sent me that, which is very cool. That's a cover versions EP. And then he also sent me, now this is going to shine like a bugger, but this is the track Vulture's Prey. I think the EP is called Vulture. Yes, side A is Vulture's Prey and side B is The Curse, and this is out now on Polytechnic Youth. And what's cool about this is the reason I'm actually holding in the cover is because the actual front cover itself is almost like a piece of film that it's quite delicate, but it's got this really cool, I don't think you can see this, but there is it's like a brandy glass with a skull inside it. It's really awesome. And then the record itself, which is also something kind of cool, it's a lathe cut 45, but it has a dinked center. Dinking is when you cut the center out, essentially. So yeah, so I hats off to Tom, aka Dream Division. Thank you for the lovely care package. And if you're not already listening to Dream Division's music, jump on over to Bandcamp and give them a listen now. Definitely recommend The Devil Rides Out, though. I am hoping beyond all hope that gets a re-release. Now, we started heavy and we're going to go back to being heavy right now because I'm talking about the brilliant brand new album from Body Count. Oh yeah. I'm not going to curse on this show. That's one thing I promised my mother I wouldn't do. But look, it's 2020 and the last two Body Count albums have probably been amongst my favorite metal albums of the last decade. And honestly, when I started listening to Body Count in the 90s, would I have thought that? Heck no, I just wouldn't have done. I never saw me becoming kind of the body count fan I am, but Carnivore, this record just, it's so good. It goes for the jugular and it really does not stop. And once again, I mean, Century Media are outdoing themselves on packaging for basic releases. And when I say basic releases, I mean, it comes on black vinyl, which to me is, you know, that's what I want. I don't really want a colored vinyl release, but I mean, this is, for a start, you can already see this. This is shining like a mofo, but the body count logo on the cover is embossed. So you get that, or is it debossed? It's embossed or debossed, it's one of the two. So it's a single LP, but it comes with this really cool cover with the embossed or debossed logo, and it comes in a gatefold sleeve that has the lyrics, so you can rap or scream along however you would like. And there are a few cover versions on this album, which I'm not a hater of. They do a great version of Ace of Spades. And it's very rare that I will listen to a Motorhead cover and be like, you probably shouldn't have, yeah. This one's great. Ice-T does a fantastic rendition of Ace of Spades. It also comes with a remade version of Colors from the Colors soundtrack, which is my personal favorite Ice-T song. That song is hard as. You also get a remake of 6 in the Morning, which is probably Ice-T rather's most well-known song. It was kind of, I think it was the song that really kind of put him on the map. Definitely the first Ice-T song I ever heard. And yeah, I mean, it's got 11 tracks. There are 3 covers, but it's so good. I love this. I love this. And as I said, this is supposedly like a basic release. So the album comes with this great, slick, glossy cover in a gatefold sleeve. You then get, and this is so cool, you get a Carnivore poster, and this is standard as far as I know. So you get an album artwork poster. I'll try and show that, but it's obviously quite big. And it's double-sided, so you get body count on one side and the album cover on the other. And this is not a special edition, it's a regular edition. You then also receive a credit book, which is nice. I mean, it could have just been a one-page insert, but no, this is actually a book with the credits inside it. Thank yous, that kind of a thing. And alongside the album, you also get a CD copy of the record, which, all right, you know, if you're buying the vinyl albums, a good chance you're not going to listen to the CD, but put it on in the car. Put it on in the kitchen, you know, wherever you've got a CD player. I don't actually own a CD player, but I have one in my car, so maybe I'll put this in the car. And that's something that Century Media are great about doing. They will put CDs in with their vinyl releases, but I think it's a great idea. I mean, CDs are so cheap these days. I mean, you can see this, I mean, it's not fancy packaging, it's in a plastic sleeve, and that's cool. It's a free CD, it's a CD of the album, so essentially you're getting the album twice. And the album itself, again, much like Metropolis, this comes on a thick, thick slice of wax. And like I said, I got the basic, I hate saying basic black, but I bought the classic black, let's just say that. There are different versions, but I think this one, it was definitely under £25. I want to say that in the UK. It's probably around $30 in the US. It may be probably around the same price in euros, something like that. Wherever you are in the world, look, let me just say this, as packaging goes and as an album goes, it's definitely worth picking up. If you liked the last Body Count album, Bloodlust, which was really heavy, so many people I know, I told them about this record and kind of, I think some of them thought I was joking, but it blew me away. You know, it was kind of like this, oh, Body Count have an album out? And it's, listen to the record before you pass any judgment. And Carnivore is a brilliant follow-up to that record because, again, it's just, this is hard-hitting, this is the kind of stuff I want to hear now. And if you're a fan of heavy music, I'd recommend it to you. Now I'm going to show you something a little bit strange and unusual now. Well, it's not strange and it's not really unusual. Now I've had some people reach out to me and ask me about covering hi-fi equipment and things of that nature. And truth be told, I know a lot about my own hi-fi, but hi-fi in general, yes, I am interested in it and I can probably point you in the right direction every now and again, but I'm not really an expert on hi-fi equipment. I'm just not. I waited over 20 years to buy this turntable, and it's not because it was super expensive. It was just time and life got in the way. But I got this one a couple of years ago, and it's never ever gonna leave me. And I will do kind of an in-depth, not review, but I'll talk about my hi-fi on a future episode. The reason I'm not doing it now is because I just replaced the cartridge in there. And with a lot of high-end cartridges, you kind of, well, actually with all cartridges, you have to kind of break them in. And I haven't used it enough to get really the full benefit of it. Yeah, I'm already hearing a difference from my previous cartridge. So I'm already happy with it, but after a certain number of hours of listening, it will unlock more secrets. So I will talk about my stereo on a later day. I'll also be going through and doing a tutorial episode on using a Noki Noki and keeping your records clean, and my process and how I do it. And it's nothing hard or difficult. Keep things simple. Keep it simple, stupid. That's the rule we will follow on the Record Room. But I did get something in the mail very, very recently that I do want to share with you because I found this to be tremendously useful. I myself, I don't know what it is about me, maybe it's my magnetic personality, but I seem to generate a heck of a lot of static electricity. And in the past, I've caught myself being shocked many times while using my hi-fi. And recently I've noticed that I'm getting a lot of static buildup on my records. Some of this comes from the sleeves the records are packaged in. I find that printed inner sleeves, for some reason, when you pull them out, they generate a lot of static, and I don't know why. Maybe that's me, I don't know. However, I recently picked up the Milty Pro Zero Stat 3. Yes, that is right, Milty Pro. Yeah, Zero Stat 3. And essentially what this is it's an anti-static gun that you point at your vinyl. And essentially it neutralizes static. So the way it works, I'll take it out and I'll show it to you. And these things, they're not super expensive. This one, I say they're not super expensive. This was around £50, something like that. But I'll say this, if spending £50 prolongs the life of my records and allows me to enjoy them more, that's great. I don't need another record that will have pops and clicks because of static electricity. No, what I need is to be able to play my records and them sound good. So in the packaging, very, very simple. You get this little adapter, which I'm assuming is for a 7-inch. Doesn't actually say inside, but I'm guessing it is because it fits on the end of the gun and it's small. So this is the Zero Stat 3. Guessing there were 2 before this. And essentially what happens is the gun inside has some magical equipment. I don't know what goes on inside, but the idea is you pull the handle really slowly, you aim it at the record, so you stand about 12 inches away, you pull the handle, and then you release the handle, and it releases ions into the air, and it covers the record and takes away the static electric charge. And there's no flashbang or light. You don't know if it's worked or not. The only way you know if it's worked is if you actually play the record and there's no static. I've seen demonstrations of this where someone will have a record that's got a fair amount of static on it, and they'll stick, you know, kind of some polystyrene or something to it and then fire the gun to show you that the static is now gone. But I've used this a couple of times so far and it's definitely come in handy. And like I say, it's coming more handy on sleeves or printed inner sleeves. So, but I mean, it's not strict to that, I will say that. But for the money so far, I am very happy with it. And if you are experiencing a problem with static electricity, why not look into the Milty Pro Zero Stat 3? And by the way, I paid for that. This is not an advert for them. This is just something I use and it's definitely come in handy. So if you're experiencing the same problem as I am, maybe give it a try. Now, thank you for joining me for episode 3 of The Record Room. If you're watching this over on YouTube, remember, if you head on over to our Patreon page for just $1 per month, you will see all of the episodes up front, as well as receive bonus content, be able to take part in viewer polls, and also receive a name in the final credits. So for $1, you cannot say more than that. Thank you, as always, to our patrons, to everybody watching this. I am tremendously grateful to all the labels and people out there that support everything I do. But until we meet again, stay gold, wash your hands, and spin those blackest circles.